All right, let's go ahead and go live. Hello, everybody on Facebook. Good Wednesday morning to you. I've showed up like every day this week, and I have a couple of guests on my podcast. We're getting ready to get started. So let's just get to it right now. Hello and welcome back to Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and today we are going to be talking about what type of angel are you? I have two beautiful, amazing angel guests with me today that I'm going to be introducing in just a minute. But before I get to that, I want to get you caught up with Lead Up for Women. We've had a very exciting November of gratitude. Thank you to everyone who sent in your gratitudes and talked to me about all of the things you are grateful for. We are grateful for you and that you used your voice to speak up and share with us what you are grateful for. Everyone knows I love Thanksgiving. I resisted to decorate and didn't take my Thanksgiving stuff down until the day after Thanksgiving, and then I decorated with Christmas, which now I have construction going on at my house. So all my Christmas stuff is everywhere again. So really it was for nothing, but you know, the effort, I get an A for effort on that one. Okay, ladies, let's talk about a few things we have coming up this month. I just sent a newsletter out of all of the awesome things we have going on in December. There are a lot of educational opportunities for you to attend so many events. So make sure you're clicking on those and attending. These are going to put tools in your toolbox. It's going to help you get ready for 2021. And most of them are being hosted by our members. We love our member community. So thank you, ladies, for having all of these amazing events for so much of our community to attend. We also have our Teaching Tuesday coming up on December 8th. And I really want to talk about everyone should attend this free event. If you are an introvert, everyone knows I'm an extrovert. I love to be in public. I love to be around people. Nothing scares me of getting out there. That's not the case for so many other people. If you are an introvert, Jessica Bargainquest is going to be speaking to us about her being an introvert and how she's been able to get herself out there and the journey she's had to take. So she's going to give you some tips and tricks. It's about a 50-minute to an hour webinar, so you can just jump on in the morning. I'll put the link up there for you guys on Facebook as well as in our description on the podcast. You can just click it, join for free, and get the opportunity to learn from Jessica next Tuesday, December 8th. All right, well, let's just get to it right away because I want to go ahead and introduce Kimberly Mitchell. So her and her husband own a company called Home with Help, and I see her as an angel because I have a mother-in-law who is 88 years old, almost 89 years old. And I see her every Saturday morning, and the family rotates to help her. This last Saturday, she introduced me to her son, who is my husband, Robert Biggs. So he came into the house after I was already there while she was getting ready, and we were gonna take her to breakfast. I take her grocery shopping, and I said, "Hey, Carolyn, Robert's here. Come on out." She's like, "Where's my son?" And I said, "There he is." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Colleen, have you met my son, Robert?" And both of us just stared at each other like we weren't expecting that. She's been struggling with her memory. And so of course, my husband walked over. "Mom, what are you talking about? This is my wife, Colleen. Isn't she beautiful?" He gives me a hug and a kiss. We go out to the car. She's getting in the car. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, Colleen, did I introduce you to my son, Robert?" And we both said, "We're married. You know that, Carolyn, we're married." And she goes, "Well, you don't act like it." And then I looked at my husband and I was like, "Well, you don't act like it. So maybe you need to hug and kiss me a little bit more and act like you're married to me." So we made it a joke in the moment, but it's very scary and it hurts my heart because it's happening more and more. And I know, Kimberly, you've positioned yourself to really help families and work with families on how to take these delicate steps in serving our elderly parents. And you do so much, to me, angel work in that area. So Kimberly, welcome to the show. And please share with us, this isn't something you've always done. So what journey brought you to Home with Help? What were you looking for? Why, out of all the industries you could have chosen, was this the industry that you chose to go with?
Well, thank you for having me. My great grandmother passed away when I was 25. but most people I know aren't lucky enough to be able to know a great grandparent at all. I wasn't living in the country at the time, but every time that I would come home to visit, it was, seeing my grandparents, her son and daughter-in-law, dealing with her, just general daily aging issues, and finances were a problem. So trying to get her onto Altex, our Access Medicaid version here in Arizona. Eventually placing her in a facility, and just kind of sort of seeing all of the steps and what everybody was sort of going through was my first experience in seniors and all of the decisions that have to be made while they age. Fast forward a few years later, her son, my grandfather, was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So a different story, but very much the same in the sense of, watching him age, watching my dad and his brother, kind of dealing with all of that. And so that was my first experience with hospice. And then eventually his wife, my grandmother, we had put her into a group home. So that was my first experience with a group home. So just kind of with all of the great grandmother and all four grandparents with all of their aging issues, I got to see over the years of all the possibilities of what can happen. So when we were moving back, I'm from Phoenix. So when we were moving back here, we were just, doing our research on what's happening in the country. And of course, what we call the silver tsunami of all the baby boomers aging. And we don't have a medical background. So it seems like the best option for us was to do a non-medical home care. So we can help seniors on that level. And then of course we partner with all of the medical, the home healths and the hospice and palliatives and all of the other things that, a senior might need help with.
Yeah. Well, I think what you do is amazing. And I know that you provide passionate care, respectful care, ethical care. But more than that, let's go back to someone in my situation, right? Who's now, there's several siblings involved. I'm the in-law. So there's 7 siblings involved in this, plus their spouses. And everyone has an opinion on what should happen. You're kind of smiling. I'm sure you've gone through this trench before.
Yeah, yes.
What are you finding in working with, who's reaching out to you? Is it the families that are reaching out to you? Is it the spouses of their loved one that needs care? Who is that person reaching out to you, and when should someone reach out to you when they know they need in-care home help? Because I don't even know what that is.
Right. Yeah. Well, it can, in your mother-in-law situation, if she's already very confused as to who is who and what relationships are and that kind of thing. I don't know if they've done any memory like tests, like if there's any baseline, because typically what most people would say is that the second that you know that there was any kind of dementia issues, and not just old timers, as my mom would call it at 70, where you just forget where you put your keys, but actual serious memory kind of questions, to get the baseline tests, which sometimes it's very difficult to talk the senior into because they haven't progressed enough to where they think you're just crazy for even asking them to go do it. But if she's kind of already at this point where she's confusing, and you guys have been together for quite some time, so I'm thinking that the family probably needs to have a serious conversation about her getting all those tests, and maybe looking at a facility that has a memory care attached to it. So like our non-medical services are typically in the senior's private home if they're trying to stay independent and it's safe, obviously, that they can be independent. And obviously everybody's story is different, but finances, at some point, we are not the most cost effective. So if money is not an issue, that's great. But if it is an issue at some point, being in a facility where there is, round clock care is going to be cheaper than, we provide round the clock care for lots of people, but, money is always, comes in as a factor. And then with multiple children involved, that means there's a lot more cooks in the kitchen. And then my first question would be, who has like medical power of attorney to be able to make decisions? And if you guys don't have it, you should get it if you can, depending on what her, mental state is at this point. Because somebody is going to need to be responsible to make the decisions, regardless of what everybody else, regardless of what everybody's opinion is. Like, it needs to be what's the best for her.
Yeah. So why, give me an idea before we move to, how people can reach you. Talk to me about why you love Home with Help. What is it about what you do? I know you and your husband get the opportunity to work the business together. And for so many couples, that's a dream. So many, that's like, no way that would ever happen. They try and stay as far away from working with their spouse as possible. But I find if you're in the same business with your spouse and you just split responsibilities, then you're one's working here doing some things and you're responsible for doing other things. So talk to us about that. First of all, you run the business with your husband. And second of all, what is it about home health that really, or Home with Help, that really fills you every day?
Well, I think in reference to the husband part, as long as there's very good communication, I find it much easier to work with him. And we were both in the same industry together when we lived in Mexico. So not only can we kind of talk shop later on when you just need to vent about whatever, but if he's just in the, down the hall to the office or in the kitchen, and we can just say, hey, we need to talk about, Mary Smith and, whatever that conversation looks like. I find it much easier to work with him. It's all about helping the seniors. So selfishly, my favorite part is when we get to go to their home, we get to sit down, we get to meet with them. And then, they always have the best stories. And even if there's a memory issue, they don't necessarily remember what happened this morning, but they can tell me every story about, in childhood or their career or whatever was important to them. And so I like that. I like the meeting the senior and hearing their stories. And then sometimes it is a senior on their own and there is nobody else around, and we are truly helping only the senior. And it might give very, peace of mind to the adult children that maybe live in another state, and then we are helping them. But I find more here that it's usually the adult children that are phoning us with concerns about the mom or mother-in-law or whoever, father, whoever, whatever that looks like, knowing that they really need help. And a lot of the times all the kids are doing it. And they, especially the sandwich generation, where there's the aging parent, but they still have kids, sometimes grandkids, depending on how old you were and you did all these things, and you're working still. And there's just not enough, there's not enough time in the day to try to fit that all in. So the phone calls that we get after of like, oh, thank you so much for, helping my dad. And it just, it's like such a relief for me to not have to deal with it. And then you get to be the daughter or the granddaughter or daughter-in-law or whatever that relationship looks like, instead of being the caregiver. And it, definitely changes the dynamics of the relationship.
What a special role that you play in their lives, because like I said, there's 7 of us, and for some reason we still can't all get there 7 days a week. Not really sure why that is, but you try and rotate with having, everything possible. And, I get worried. So you're going to be getting a call from me because I'm going to set it up with the family for us to speak with you. And speak with her because I'm getting worried that the groceries are getting less and less, and there's not as much that I'm needing to purchase for her anymore because she's not eating as much, and I can't be there every day, all day. And when you mention bringing food in or, having meals delivered, she doesn't want to have anything for it, but I'm pretty sure she probably forgot when she last ate, or like you mentioned, they don't even want to eat anymore because they just lose their sense of taste. And but you're right, the stories is so far my favorite part. Always has been. We can learn so much from them, and still take them incredible places and have the conversations with them to get to know them really, really well, during this time. So Kimberly, thank you so much for all that you bring in Arizona. Now, do you serve the entire Valley of Arizona only, or are you serving other states?
No, right now, since we're family owned and operated, we don't have any zip code restrictions. But we're in Maricopa County, but we haven't ventured out of it. And honestly, there's a huge need here in Arizona. I mean, we have a massive retirement community. So
Yeah.
and in the conversation of there only being so much time in the day, I don't have the intention at the moment to venture outside of Maricopa County just yet.
Right, but maybe you'll get there someday. Now, are you hiring?
Right.
Are you looking for caregivers at the moment, or is that something that you're on the
Yes.
search for?
Yeah, we're always looking for good caregivers or CNAs, certified nurse assistants.
Okay.
And then yes, anywhere in the valley. I mean, there's Anthem to Goodyear to Mesa, Gilbert, all the East Valley. My office is in Scottsdale, so obviously there's Phoenix and Scottsdale, but just generally within county limits.
Okay, good. Well, we will get the word out that you are, if you're a CNA or, now, do they need to be certified if they're not a certified nurse assistant to do the home care? Do you do any certifications or direct them, someone that wants to do that, to a certification, or do they need to be a certified nurse assistant to work with you?
No, they don't. They don't initially need to be. So if somebody is not, like CPRs and first aids. I mean, there's some basic minimum requirements, and then we're contracted with all the insurances that are with the state, with Altex or Access. So there's a direct care worker course, a couple different levels that they need to take, but we would help to arrange all of that if they're not already.
Okay, great. Well, if you're a CNA or someone who's CPR and first aid certified, if you're looking to become a home care provider, please be sure to reach out to Kimberly. Kimberly, how can someone who might be in my situation or someone that's looking for a position to be able to work for you, how can they reach out and find you?
The best way is the phone number, which is 480-941-0200.
Okay.
Or the website is homewithhelp.net, and there's a massive amount of information on the website, and then of course all the links and all the associations and all that kind of information's on there as well.
Yeah, we'll have all of that information right there at your fingertips. So if you're on Facebook, it'll be in the description. If you're listening to this on through the podcast on Spotify or Apple Play or Google Play or wherever you listen to the podcast, it should be right there in the description. You can just click on the email care@homewithhelp.net or the website homewithhelp.net, and you should be able to get directly to there. So we welcome everyone to reach out to Kimberly, especially if you have a loved one who is aging and needs some additional assistance, or if you're looking to work with Kimberly and her amazing team. Who wouldn't want to work with you, Kimberly? You're just so kind and generous and sweet, and you look amazing in royal blue, by the way.
Thank you.
I got to bring it up because I love royal blue. Matches my sofas.
Oh, I was going to say, I match your lead up behind you.
I really appreciate it, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us today on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Been wonderful. All right, Karen, Miss Karen Cowperthwaite. Now, did I say that right? Because I want
I
to
think
make
that's
sure I'm
pretty
getting
good.
how did you say it?
Copper weight. So the TH is
Cowperthwaite.
silent.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't want to leave anything out.
You're
Now,
good.
you're known as a SOULY sister, so I'm going to have you explain that in a minute. An
Sure.
intuitive transformation coach. Again, anyone that is that intuitive, I really feel that they're angels and messengers and soul guides. And, I believe our journeys go on soul, our souls go on a journey just as we go on a journey. And there's so much that happened before we got here. There's so much that's going to happen after we're done here on our time on earth. And that's my belief. Again, that might not be everybody else's belief, but that's my belief. And I love how you really help people reach that satisfying, thriving in life, because I've learned that there are the journeys that we go through. If we are not clearing that stuff, the muck that we pick up along the way, if
Yeah.
we're not clearing that out, I call it luggage, baggage that you're carrying that gets really heavy and we need to unpack it. We know that it manifests itself as procrastination, self-sabotage, you name it, right? I could go on and on and on about all of the stuff that it manifests itself as. That the head looks a lot different when it comes out later in life than it did when we were a kid, right? And you're shaking your head. All right, Karen. So that's just my interpretation, which is little tiny bit of scratching the surface. But Karen, you're the expert here. So we're going to dive into, how did you take this soul journey? I mean, how do you do medium work? Tell me about, I always say you didn't come out of the womb this way, right?
Absolutely
That
not.
didn't happen. When was I've been to understand that there's a calling that happens through this. So when did you realize, or what was a pivotal moment in your life that this came to be? You received the calling, or you heeded to the calling, or resisted it for a while? What's this journey been like?
So
You're
much.
laughing.
Yeah.
So.
So you're exactly right. Everything you said. I mean, we're all on a soul's journey. We came here for a specific purpose. And it's really up to us how we choose to unpack it, right? And if we choose to unpack it, because many people go to their grave and maybe led a certain life that was more limited in what they chose to explore about themselves. So for me, one of the pivotal times in my life was, I am a former special ed teacher and administrator in public schools. I did that for 21 years. And on my drive home one day, which was the same thing every day, right? Racing against the clock, get home, get my kids to whatever they needed to go after school. And at that time in my life, I had an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and 5-year-old, 3 girls I have. And I was driving home, again, that same race, that same, stress. And I called out, there has to be something more to life than this, out of that frustration, out of that panic feeling. And it seemed at that time in my life that started to open up some doors for me. And I started to take some classes. Literally walked into this store near where I would get my hair cut year after year, right, month after month. And there was a store called The Present Moment. And I suddenly noticed it. I walked in, it was like a place where you would go where there would be any gift imaginable for a woman that you could possibly need. Someone going through, something in their family, just those soulful types of gifts. She also taught classes. And the first class I took in 2008 was The Law of Attraction. And at that time I had heard of the book, The Secret, but I had no idea what it meant. And that began my journey. And I remember being in that class and looking around, and these people were all chattering, men and women, about different things, different people like Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay. I knew nothing, but I remember sitting there, and there was a woman one chair away from me, and I turned my head and saw her face talking to the teacher, the person leading. And I just remember saying to myself, I want to be like her. That was an energy, an ease that just called to me. And so I began taking different things. It progressed to where I took this class that was called Healing with the Angels. And it was all about energy work, very similar if you've ever heard of Reiki. That was connecting with the angels. And I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Went to the class, felt terribly out of place that everyone knew everything. Again, see the theme. And that afternoon, we practiced on one another. And so I just remember, it's like setting an intention, doing what I remembered was just taught to do. And then I was at the person's top of their head, kind of holding space right at the top. And all I can say is I had this feeling of joy that I had never felt before. It was overwhelming. And if you are a woman who's had different experiences in your life, people so-called dictate to you what's supposed to bring you joy. And this was like something I had never felt. And again, had no idea what to do with that. Never had any intention of resigning from my long time career and doing this work full time. But as you shared, Colleen, sometimes there are these gentle nudges, these little pieces that say, this is the way to go. This is right for you. And it's somewhat in here and it's somewhat out there, right? And it's unconventional. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought, oh yeah, I'm going to be an angel messenger. I'm going to be an intuitive life coach. I'm going to teach classes and I'm going to lead retreats. And I have a message to share that I know is in my heart and meant for me. And so as you talked about the saboteurs, right? That inner critic, I think, we call it the judge. We all as human beings have it. And like you were sharing, there are 10 different kinds of saboteurs. And typically we have our top 3. And those that voice in our head that we think is our own really can be shifted. It can be weakened, and we can step into and grow our wisest self. Call it the sage, call it the higher self, doesn't really matter, but we all have that capability. And that's what excites me. My life as a transformation coach, when someone comes to me for life coaching and says, you know what, this is where I want to go. And they might think they're incredibly far away. But most of the time, the formula is the same for each and every one of us. We got to quiet the fear voice and trust our wisest self, that inner sage that is within every single one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is so interesting that you said that, because those damn top 3, right? We can all relate to it, and they're there. So I guess, the women listening right now, because I'm listening to you, and the number one thing that I'm thinking that's going on in my head is, what's the first step that you take? Because just like we talked with Kimberly about, what's the first step that you take when you've got a loved one in your life and you don't know what to do? We're unprepared, right?
Yeah.
I believe that sometimes we aren't prepared for things that happen in our lives, even though I do strongly believe everything happens for a reason and we would only be given what we can handle. What do we do? I mean, what is the first step, Karen?
Yeah.
Help us.
Well, like you just mentioned, there are no coincidences.
Yeah.
I even call them God winks. Who comes along in our path, right? So all of those people that came along in my path and supported me and helped me and even told me, you're a healer. You're meant to help heal people's hearts, nurture their souls. Those ideas, I heard it, but I was like, who, me? But the first thing that I always teach is how to become more of the observer to the stuff going on in your life, so you can create more distance, so you're not more as reactive. So I can physically be right in front of someone who triggers me and not dive in, right? Not become my typical reactive self, whether that's, my reaction is anger, or my reaction is to withdrawal, or my reaction is to have resentment, right? We all can have a certain skill set, like I call a SOULY toolbox, that allows us to create some spatial distance. How I do that as an intuitive coach to teach people is I guide them through a specific kind of process. It's called the envision process. But what it allows need to guide people to do and to then do on their own is to bypass the subconscious mind. That's where that inner critic voice is. And step into the unconscious, which is where your wisest self is. It is surprisingly super easy to do. And it's a process where a person would close their eyes and I'm guiding, almost like a guided meditation. They're not in any kind of a sleepy or a trance or anything. They're hearing me. We can interact. They can share with me what's coming forward for them. And I can right away show them that they already know what to do. It comes forward so easily as pictures. So whereas the saboteur voice speaks to us in words, and it's never the nice things about us, the unconscious mind, the higher self, speaks to us in pictures, and it just plays like a movie. And so that's a lot of fun work because I've never had a client that can't create that for themselves. And it's something that we take away then. And because it's a process, and I send, audios so somebody can practice again. Eventually, right, we're able to shift that energy and do it for ourselves. And to some degree, it's almost like we don't have to do the whole process. All we have to do is create that little image, and it does the whole process for us. So it's quick and efficient.
So there we go, Kimberly, quick and efficient, because I know you are a meditator. So this meditation that Karen could give you could help you be quick and efficient on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. That's awesome.
It's
Anytime we hear quick and efficient, we're like, I'm in, right? I'm in. But I loved what you said, Karen, and I want to anchor that in. We all have the power already within us to make those changes and for us to tap into the areas that exist for us to make changes in our lives. It's already existing. You're a guide. You become the guide to assist us and educate us on how to do that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because number one is, yes, we have a choice. At any given moment, I always tell my husband, someone can change. So who we see as our greatest challenger in our lives, and we all have one, really is our greatest teacher, because they're teaching us how to love ourselves even more, to realize that somebody else's stuff is showing up, just like we have our own stuff, our own saboteur that gets triggered. So does everybody else. And so it's not necessarily about us at all. In fact, so rarely it is. Someone's battling their own saboteur voice, and that's what's showing up. So that is what I find is, once people figure out their own saboteur, what that typically triggers in them. And we all, one of the top ones is avoider. You got the pleaser, you have the victim, you have the hyper vigilant, the hyperachiever. There's 10. And I just, can name 5 off the top of my head. Once we realize that what ours are, and try to, quiet that and nurture that and weaken that, then, right, the wise part of us comes forward. And so I can then see somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, I need some people to start moving out. That's a lot of people living in my house.
I don't know.
Kimberly, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but I'm like, I don't have room for all these people in my house. I thought they all just moved out, but apparently I've got some roommates I didn't realize were sticking around.
It's been stressful. I hear you. I have, since March, my husband's in the basement working. My oldest daughter just graduated college and is teaching high school math. So she's been in her room teaching. I have an e-learner who's in high school. And I had my college student home for a little bit, one in college home for a little while when school, actually she was studying abroad and then had to come home in March. And so, she was home. So it's chaotic.
Yes, but I'm talking about my saboteurs that live with me. That's even more chaotic.
Absolutely. So,
those are all in here.
They're taking up a lot of space in this house.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you.
And we all have them, don't we? It's like spring cleaning on ourself is the way I see it. And I love that you said they show up like a movie, right?
Mm.
Like an image or a vision, because for me, that's how I see things. So that's so much easier for us to work with. And again, what you said about our greatest challengers, our greatest teacher, I wrote that down because I really feel that's true. Our greatest challenger. And instead of looking at it as a challenge, look at it as in a bad way, look at it as a challenge in a positive way to help us learn and grow from
Yeah.
an experience. And I'm also happy that you mentioned once we realize that the babbling that's happening, that's coming especially from other people, we talk about this a lot in Lead Up for Women, it really is their own self-sabotage that's coming out, that's reflecting on you and really has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And when we realize that, it puts it in a different perspective for when someone is coming at you maybe with some sabotage or judgment or whatever it may be. And really all we have in life is, working on getting this straight. And when
Mm.
we can get this straight and we can love who we are, then that really opens up the way for us to be able to truly love others and help others get, through their journey in life, just like you are, Karen. So tell us, Karen, what do you have to offer today? Tell us what you've got going on. How can people get in contact with you? What is something that would be a first step for them in working with you to kind of put their toe in the water? And not everyone gets it, right? So really get a feel of who you are and how you can assist them.
Absolutely. So I have a Facebook group called Living Life Soulfully
Hmm.
with Karen Cowperthwaite, but Living Life Soulfully will pull it up. It's a great intro. I do Monday morning meditation. I do something called Soul Chats. It's inspirational. It's positive. It's connection with people who are, are sensitive souls. Very, very deep feelers. Heart centered. That's my community, and that's who I attract. As far as angel work, I am, obviously I do readings as well as the coaching piece and teaching. So for 2021, I am doing angel readings for the new year and the energies of the new year. So there are 3 options, different price points, 15 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that as well is easily found on the Facebook page or, through, you can email me at Karen at SOULY Sister, SOULY sister.com. I am teaching next week an angel class that is specifically techniques to release limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. So again, it's easy to find on Facebook through that group page or their SOULY Sister business page as well. And I'm doing a retreat actually in Sedona in June of 2021. So if someone is interested in a 4-day or 5-day, 4-night experience in beautiful Sedona, and I'm sure both of you have experienced Sedona. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. And it is about illuminating your heart. So the path to your heart. So if you really, that's something that interests you and you feel like I'd really like to spend that time for myself. There is no better place, in my opinion, than going to Sedona, and in particular this location where the retreat is going to be held. So thanks for asking me, Colleen.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're feeling like the Grinch this holiday, like your heart's a little too small, I should have worn my Grinch sweatshirt today. He's one of my favorite. I just love the Grinch because he goes from just being this mean person because he was hurt as a child, and he just literally, was so hurt as a child, and he harbored all of that. It's such a good story. Harbored all of that until this other person stepped into his life that was able to put a little light in that darkness, and then all of a sudden he changed and his heart grew. So I love that story for that reason. And so if you're looking for working on your heart, Sedona is a beautiful place to go no matter where you live in the United States. And it's one of the only places in the world that I know of that's that close to the vibrations and the vortex. And so you not only get a beautiful view and gorgeous weather, you get the energy that comes with that location. And that's why so many retreats are held in the Sedona, Arizona. So for sure, we'll be looking into that. And Living Life Soulfully, the Facebook group, everyone make sure you go over and join that. And some angel readings are going to be happening. She's working on the limiting beliefs next week. So again, sign up for that in her Facebook group. That's a great opportunity. Again, all of it's at your fingertips. We're going to have it all on the Facebook page. So ladies, thank you for joining me today. What a wonderful conversation of
having us.
different angels that we have on earth here to help guide us. And we just tapping in, you know. Oh, Karen, I wanted to ask you, are men and women different intuitively? Or do women just notice there's more? I just wanted to ask that quick question. I find that men don't use their intuition as much. Or maybe
I always say I work with primarily women and a few good men.
But a few good men.
The truth is, I think it's possible for us. We are naturally more in touch with our emotions, you know, and we have been allowed to have that part of us. There are plenty of men that I've met that also are feel comfortable, right? Tapping into their intuition and are very, very connected. But you know, as you know, it's something that you have to accept in yourself, no matter what.
Oh, 1,000% agree with that. 1,000%. I forgot to ask that earlier, and I just wanted to throw that out there. But I guess, you know, society, history, everything, you know, you look at the male role compared to the female role. And like you said, some are welcome them touching, you know, and are brave enough and courageous enough, I guess, to a few good men to tap into that, where for women, it just is an innate, natural instinct for us. And for men, it's not. So it's a little bit more work.
I would say that our age group and above, that hasn't been the norm, but youngest souls coming in now, and people in general are much more connected.
For sure. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much. And everyone listening today, here's your opportunity to connect with two amazing angels that are, of course, you know, here in Arizona. And you can reach out to Kimberly Mitchell or Karen Cowperthwaite for anything you want. Jump on their Facebook pages, email them, call them. Again, more tools for your toolbox for you to have this opportunity when. And it's not a matter of if. It is always a matter of when you will need these contacts. So I always say, just keep expanding your Rolodex and getting more and more connections with people, because it's all about who you know. It's all about who you know, not always about what we know. It's about who we know. So get to know Karen and Kimberly so they can assist you when you need them. And next week, on our next episode, we have a male that I'm interviewing, second time ever. His name is Tom Kay. And he is one of the biggest sponsors and mentors for women in corporate business that I've ever met in my life. And I'm bringing him in to talk about how men can step up and be better mentors and sponsors for women in the corporate world, as well as we have Melissa Deely with us, and she's coming to us out of British Columbia, and she's going to be talking about integrative health. And how we know when our trash cans are full, when our health is deteriorating, but yet it doesn't need to be deteriorating. So there's something going on with our bodies, and how to tap into that and live a healthier life. So we're talking about that in our next episode. So please join us on December 9th. And I just want to leave you with this one last little bit, which is, remember, you are the only you that has ever been, and you are the only you that will ever be. So how you pioneer your future, it's up to you. None of us, Kimberly nor Karen, can give you permission today for you to take that next step in your life, to live and thrive in the life that you desire. Only you can give yourself permission to do that. So we say, go ahead and give yourself the permission to live your best life. All right, ladies, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.